We've been opposed to Donald Trump's reckless and costly war of choice in the Middle East from the very beginning.
This is an unwinnable war for the United States. This is not going to, I think, end well for us.
Throwing more bombs at them isn't going to produce a positive result. And part of President Trump's failed leadership in this instance has been how many different goals he has laid out.
Democrats are sure hoping the Iran war is their key to winning the midterms, but is it really becoming a political liability for Republicans? We're going to discuss because, hello, everyone. Welcome to the second hour of the Big Weekend Show. So attacks in the Strait of Hormuz and the Houthi blockade of the Red Sea are impacting the U.S. economy, pushing the national average price of gas back over $4 a gallon. Meanwhile, a new Fox News poll reveals that a majority of voters now believe the conflict in Iran will last over a year, maybe longer, raising concerns that energy prices could be elevated for the long term. Let's hope not. Joining us now for tonight's Big Close-Up is RNC Chairman Joe Gruters. Chairman Gruters, it's great to have you. We got a lot of questions for you. I want to go right into the midterms. We know that, the situation with Iran is making some Trump mega voters maybe just a little bit anxious, right? They support the president. They want to know how this is going to end. They're a little worried about the price of gas. They still support what the president is doing. What do you tell those voters out there that showed up big for Trump in 2024, showed up big for Republicans in 2024 about what's coming up in just a few short months? How do you get them energized and excited to go out there and vote?
Listen, we got to have faith in the president. We can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And this president's making sure that that doesn't happen. I mean, he deserves a lot of credit for being so courageous. 47 years, nobody's been willing to touch this issue. And we don't know the national security issues that the president sees every day. And he is doing what he can to stop it. And so I think at the end of the day, it will be a wash or a upside for the president, specifically once he gets his messaging out.
What do you tell Americans, though, who are looking at the price at gas? And I think a lot of Americans were paying higher prices. At one point under Biden, it went up to $5 at the pump. But I think Americans were told that prices were going to come down. And we saw glimmers of that right before the conflict broke out. What do you say to those Americans who still feel the weight of affordability at the kitchen table?
Well, I will tell you that when I talk to the president, he has empathy for everybody. And we talk about gas prices, and the president's doing everything he can to get them down. I mean, since day one, he's gone to bat for the American worker. Look at the working family tax cuts and the no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security. He really cares about gas prices and how soon people forget the disaster that we had under Joe Biden. You're right. Gas prices were over $5. And even during this conflict, they are less now than they were then. And I know this president, he's going to end this conflict as soon as he possibly can. We're going to get gas prices back down. We just need a little bit of time and a little bit of runway, because at the end of the day, I 100% trust not only the president, but his administration to get the job done and to get it right.
Chairman, I got one more question for you on the midterm topic. I think there's no secret that President Trump is also a little frustrated with Senate Republicans and their inability to get a whole lot done, including the Save America Act, and he's called them out a number of times, including Leader Thune, we have on this show as well. So what do you say to the voters out there that say, you know what, I'm with President Trump, I support him, I don't really care so much about gas prices, I don't really care about the war, the conflict in Iran, but I don't know why I should go vote for Republicans. When I vote for Republicans, they don't do anything. So it's not necessarily any sort of ill will towards the president and his agenda, but it's more towards Republicans who are elected and then don't carry out the agenda. What do you say to those voters?
Well, listen, we have 100 days before the general election, and what you have is you have common sense versus communism. You could say crazy as well. What we're doing and what we've done with the Republican National Committee is we've helped candidates prepare for this battle coming up, because what we're going to do is we're going to return some MAGA warriors in November, and we're going to make sure if we can't get it done between now and then, I guarantee you that we'll have the MAGA warriors in place to make sure that we pass this. And yes, the Save America Act, there's no excuse, no reason why it hasn't been done. But listen, this president has been focused on trying to push that forward. We have a couple of holdouts, but what the real issue is, the Democrats, even though over 80% of the people are in favor of common sense ideas like making sure you have proof of citizenship when you register to vote and voter ID before you go vote, The Democrats have been united, and they don't want that because they try to cheat every single day, and we're fighting the fight from coast to coast, 150 lawsuits. We're bringing the absolute hammer. We're winning a lot of these election integrity lawsuits, but the Save America Act is the tip of the iceberg. We got to get it passed, and if we don't pass it now, I promise you these MAGA warriors will pass it in November.
Chairman Gruters, earlier today, Maine Democrats picked far-left candidate Troy Jackson as Graham Platner's replacement. There's new polling showing that he's virtually tied with Senator Susan Collins, but he's already facing allegations of angry outbursts, including throwing a plastic water bottle at a female lawmaker. And a Republican House member in Maine has written to the head of the Electoral Commission challenging whether he can run on the ballot because he already ran for governor, and so you're not supposed to be able to run in the same election for two different offices. What can you tell us about those things?
Well, yeah, listen, Troy Jackson is Platner 2.0. He's a complete loser. In a lot of ways, he's even worse for women. I don't know if he wants certain biological males and girls' bathrooms. He voted and helped lead the effort to make sure that minors can get sex change surgeries and have be mutilated without their parents' consent. Think about it as a parent. I have 3 kids. I can't imagine that happening to my child without me knowing. This is what this guy wants to do. This guy's a radical leftist. He was supported by Bernie Sanders. And what you see here is exactly what happened with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. You have the party insiders of the Democrat Party picking this guy instead of the grassroots. He is going to be a loser because we have Susan Collins, who's a phenomenal candidate. She knows what the voters of Maine and the constituents of Maine want. She's exceeded expectations cycle after cycle, and we're going to be behind her and make sure that she has all the resources and everything that she needs to win.
Mr. Chairman, Democrats are looking to shake up their early primary calendar. The DNC Rules Committee has chosen 6 states for its early primary window. It starts in South Carolina, January 28th, followed by Nevada, New Hampshire. The new calendar faces a final vote last month. If you look at the top 2 states here, South Carolina, pretty reliable Republican state. Nevada, these are both diverse states. In a way, have Democrats done themselves a service here by picking maybe states that might get more centrist candidates, or more centrist presidential candidate nominated, which could be more problematic for Republicans?
Listen, this is like rearranging chairs in the Titanic. I mean, the Democrat, if you look at the candidates they're proposing right now, they're a bunch of losers. They have no chance of winning the 2028 cycle. And listen, what the Democrats just did is they basically told the Iowa voters, we don't care about you. And think what's going on in Iowa right now. There's a competitive governor's race. There's a U.S. Senate race. There's 2 House races. And the Democrats are giving them the middle finger. They don't care about Iowa. They don't care about middle America. I think it's a huge mistake. But again, these Democrats just keep on giving us gifts every single day. That's why I've said, and I've talked with Newt Gingrich, even I had him in my office again this week, talking about how the Democrat Party is in the death spiral because of the radical leftists that are running it with no agenda. And they just keep on making some of these decisions, whether it's Troy Jackson or you're dumping Iowa as the first state in the country to host the primary. These guys are nuts, and that's why we're well positioned to win not only this cycle, but in 2028.
RNC Chairman Joe Gruters, it's going to be a noble fight that you have ahead of you. We wish you the best of luck. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks so much.
All right, Taylor, I want to pick up where we left off there.
Yes.
So here's my concern.
Okay.
And I hear it a lot. It is a gift. He is right. It is a gift that the far left has taken over the Democrat Party and that they are cuckoo crazy for Cocoa Puffs. I totally agree. This is a gift. This is a gift from up above to Republicans. But for me, as a Republican voter, I don't know if it's enough to say, well, we really haven't done a whole lot in terms of course, Senate Republicans. We haven't done a whole lot outside of a tax cut extension, but the other side is crazy.
I agree. Bingo. Your second question nailed it. We had Larry Kudlow on our program last Wednesday. He said, where's the second tax cut bill? The big, beautiful bill was over a year ago. That is unacceptable. So when voters go to the polls in November and they're thinking like, what did you do for me? The big, beautiful bill is going to be 16 or 17 months ago. They've done nothing for them in 2026. I want more tax cuts. I want to index capital gains to inflation that will help unlock the housing market. I want to bring interest rates down. There are, and I know that the president can't control that. That's a Federal Reserve problem. But if you tackle inflation, you can bring interest rates down. There are a whole host of other ideas that we could be doing. The Voter ID Act. You know, tons of, and I think voters are looking at this and Republicans and saying attacking the other party isn't enough. I need a pro what have you done for me party. And frankly, there hasn't been another tax cut bill in over a year. And I think a lot of people are fed up.
They might be falling into the same trap that Republicans or that Democrats did when they were just anti-Trump.
Yep.
Because they didn't tell you what Kamala was going to do. They just told you that they hated Donald Trump. So I hope that doesn't happen. And I don't put this on President Trump. He's doing a lot. Put it on Senate Republicans.
Yep.
Rich, you're going to be on the campaign trail. You're going to be covering some of these far left candidates.
On the way to Michigan.
You know, they're overperforming what perhaps even the people in their own party thought they would. Do you think that there is going to be a rush for folks like Chuck Schumer to say, uh-oh, we need to put this genie back in the bottle? It got out of hand. The Frankenstein we created is now a little bit too big.
Yeah, none other than Rahm Emanuel wrote in the Wall Street Journal just last week that this is something that Democrats need to nip in the bud immediately, that they need to say to the DSA candidates, like, no, this is not something that we're going to allow in the party. And it appears as though that while many in the party establishment would prefer if non-DSA, non-progressive leftist candidates won, that they prefer they didn't win, they're still not going to they're not going to kick them out of the party. They're not going to withhold party money from them. But it is going to be a problem because, you know, you're trying to find a way, if you're a Democrat, making blue, reliable districts even bluer is not going to help you in swing districts. It's going to do the opposite. There are middle-of-the-road Republican candidates in swing districts across the country who love the fact that the DSA has put out a platform calling for getting rid of the Senate and getting rid of ICE and getting rid of all these other things.
And police and prisons.
And police and prisons and you know, and just airing the Zoom call, I think, is enough for a lot of them. And they are going to, and every Republican would be doing themselves an electoral disservice if they didn't try to tie their opponent, even if they're not that part of the party, even if they disagree with all that stuff, just putting them on the defensive on all and getting in voters' minds. But then again, you're also running into the issue, to Taylor's point, it's that politics now has also become, well, I'm against, you need to vote against that opponent as opposed to for me for what I'm going to do for you.
Mark, it seems like the message from Republicans, at least right now, is the other side is crazy. They're going to do a lot of horrible things, but don't worry, we're going to do nothing. And you're an expert at this. So
doing nothing?
No,
It's a weekend.
No, Mark, you do a lot. You're an expert at informing Republicans, Republican candidates, and those who are in office what they need to do in terms of messaging. What can Republicans up and down the ballot do better to get people excited to vote?
Pass another reconciliation bill. Do
Bingo.
something positive. I agree with that 100%. But I'm also I'm going to end this on an optimistic note because I'm getting 2022 vibes in reverse. Remember the 2022 midterms? Joe Biden had the worst border crisis in American history, worst inflation in 4 decades, worst crime crisis. We were going to have a red wave. And then it never materialized. He turned in the best performance of any president since JFK in a midterm. Why? Because we put up a bunch of candidates who lost winnable races, right? We had Herschel Walker in Georgia, Blake Masters in Arizona, Dan Bolduc in New Hampshire.
Like
we left seats on the table. Now they've got Graham Platner. Now they've got Abdul El Said. They're putting up bad candidates. I mean, they need Michigan. Rogers lost that by 18,000 votes last time. That is a purple state. They're not just making blue districts bluer, though you're right, that's a problem. They're trying to make purple districts worse as well. And so we're putting up some bad candidates of our own. We can always, never discount the Republican Party's ability to undermine itself. But I'm not sure that the blue wave is going to be what everybody's expecting. I'm out of the prediction business because I predicted a red wave, so I was wrong. So I'm not going to predict that there's not going to be a blue wave. But it's entirely possible that this big blue wave may not be what they expect.
Well, let's hope that it's a wash. I mean, no, we want more optimism than that. We want to vote for mega Republicans that are going to do something.
Amen.
Still.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox 1.